Ben meets B at a coffee shop and they feel an immediate attraction, but for one reason, they both end up damaging this connection. This is how sometimes people who like each other ruin relationships that could be the love of their lives. Ben and B spend the day together, share stories, and both know there is something special. They had never felt anything like this before. Ben invites her to his apartment and, for some reason, decides to tell her one of his most personal stories. His mother used to tell him that no matter how broken something is, there are always ways to fix it. As soon as Ben tells B this, he gets scared. He had never shared something like that with a girl before. He is usually very sure of himself when flirting, but the situation with B feels different. They talk and fall asleep together without having had any physical relationship. However, this level of emotional connection reveals an even greater intimacy. B wakes up and gets scared, wondering what this means. She grabs her things and leaves. She calls her sister to tell her about the amazing guy she just met. Meanwhile, Ben wakes up, sees her taking her things, and leaving, and this disappoints him. He believed they had something more meaningful than a one-night stand. He thinks about everything he shared with her, and it hurts. B reacts and realizes she shouldn't have left so quickly. It was out of habit that she took her things and left, but maybe this time she didn't have to. She decides to return to the apartment. However, when she does, she hears Ben telling his roommate, "No way. Did I fall in love? No, I couldn't get her out of here fast enough. That girl is a disaster. It meant nothing." B is extremely embarrassed and hurt, and she leaves without Ben seeing her. Psychologist Sadia Khan argues that the first question we should ask ourselves before starting to date someone is, in what way are my personal insecurities going to ruin this relationship? And it's not about if my insecurities will ruin it, but how they will. Each of us has our own story through which we have been hurt. We all carry insecurities, wounds, traumas, and fears. And it is precisely these difficult experiences from our past that become our biggest obstacles to achieving happiness in the future. This is partly because if we don't work on healing them, we begin to adopt defensive behaviors to protect ourselves from feeling that kind of pain again. In this way, our past insecurities and wounds make us put up barriers that prevent us from connecting with new people who could very likely contribute to our well-being. For example, in this case, something from the past motivated BA to leave Ben's apartment quickly, and this decision was neither conscious nor meditated, but automatic. She noticed there was something special between them and felt vulnerable, and faced with the fear of confronting a situation that could cause her great pain again, she decided to put up a barrier and leave before getting even more attached. Ben did exactly the same thing. He was vulnerable with B, and seeing her run away, decided to get defensive, pretending he was never interested. Thus, the past insecurities and wounds of both ended up ruining this new connection. 6 months later, Ben accompanies his friend Claudia to a bar. She is going to introduce him to her new girlfriend, Hallie. Upon arrival, Hallie greets him and takes the opportunity to introduce her sister, who turns out to be none other than B. When they meet, the disappointment both felt 6 months ago resurfaces. B mentions she is going to get a drink, and Ben replies, "If what you want is to leave without saying goodbye, the exit is that way." To which B replies, "Maybe I'll do that, because I'm a disaster." To irritate him, she reveals that she has gotten engaged. Her reunion with Ben made her realize she wanted to get back with her ex-boyfriend Jonathan. In the end, both claim they never wish to meet again in their lives. However, that won't be possible, since Hallie and Claudia are engaged to be married and will celebrate their wedding in Australia. Ben and Bea end up on the same flight. Seeing her, Ben decides to approach her to annoy her. He mentions he heard she broke off her engagement and asks if she ran away secretly from her own wedding. Bea gets deeply irritated. He could never understand her reasons. When they arrive in Australia, they discover everyone will be staying in the same house and they will have to try their best to coexist peacefully. They go to the beach, and there Ben runs into his ex-girlfriend Margaret. They dated a few years ago, and he was deeply in love. However, she ended their relationship and broke his heart. Despite the years that have passed, it is evident that Ben still has feelings for her. Bee's parents are worried about her. She and Jonathan have known each other since they were 11 and had a very long relationship, which she decided to end from one day to the next. Her parents consider that a mistake and try to convince her to call him again, but she insists that Jonathan didn't fulfill her completely. Bee looks in the mirror and starts crying. She doesn't know if what she did was right or not. She is really confused and frustrated. At this moment, we understand that the way she treats Ben is influenced by her past with Jonathan. Likewise, the way Ben reacts to Bee has nothing to do with her directly, but probably with the damage Margaret caused him in the past. Both seem to be projecting their previous disappointments and pains onto their present interaction, preventing them from connecting with each other. Bee's parents don't give up so easily and decide to invite Jonathan to Australia with the hope that they will reconnect. When she sees Jonathan in Australia, she knows perfectly well what her parents are trying to do. Then she comes up with a brilliant idea. She proposes to Ben that they both pretend to be in love so her parents stop pressuring her, and, at the same time, this will make Margaret jealous and want to get back with him. Ben considers it and concludes he has nothing to lose, so he accepts the deal. They both start faking their relationship. Most of the time, they end up arguing, but during these moments, they start getting to know each other better. There is still some chemistry between them, despite the misunderstandings and the wounds to their egos. They continue enjoying the time they spend together, and something special happens in these moments. The two claim to hate each other, and faced with this, they don't feel the need to pretend. They are authentically themselves, expressing their opinions and true personalities precisely because they aren't looking to please the other. In this way, in this honest, transparent, and sincere space, and without having expected it, they begin to connect genuinely with vulnerability. Bee asks him if what he told her about his mom that night was true, or if it was just a story he used with all his dates that meant nothing to him. Hearing this, Ben realizes she heard what he told his roommate. He apologizes sincerely and assures her it wasn't a lie, and it isn't something he shares with many people. At this moment, something changes between them. They set aside their egos, their masks, and their barriers, and for the first time since that night, they are vulnerable. One day before the wedding, they organize an event on a boat. Bee appears in a dress looking incredible, and Ben is captivated by her beauty. On the boat, Bee approaches Jonathan to talk. After seeing him that morning, she realizes she still cares for him, and that he still seems wonderful to her. Ben observes this scene, and this time clearly recognizes that what he feels is jealousy. He approaches Bea, and under the pretext of making Margaret jealous, invites her to dance. The chemistry that has always existed beneath all that hate finally surfaces. The attraction they felt from the first night becomes evident again. They are at the bow of the ship when, by accident, Bee falls into the sea. Without hesitating, Ben jumps into the water after her. While waiting for rescue on a buoy, Ben asks Bee why she decided to end her relationship with Jonathan. At first, she tries to avoid the question, but finally opens up and confesses, "We never argued. Everything was so comfortable that it ended up being very boring. He is a wonderful man, but it was too much perfection. I didn't even dare tell him I quit law school. I haven't told anyone." This show of vulnerability impacts Ben. He feels Bee is trusting him with a very important part of herself. Given this, he asks her, "Why did you disappear that morning?" Bee answers sincerely, "Because you scared me a lot. I had never felt something so strong. It was the first time in my life I felt fire and passion, and the first thing I wanted to do was put it out." Ben understands her well and confesses, "I am also guilty of that. It hurt me that you left. That's why I said all those painful things, but they don't reflect how I felt." Why would it be a problem that Bee and Jonathan didn't argue and had this perfect relationship? Arguing with someone is a sign that you are willing to do something different from what the other wants. You are being authentic and vulnerable, showing yourself without masks or pretenses. If a couple never argues, it's probably a sign that they are keeping many things inside. B and Ben are learning to open up to one another, sharing their feelings sincerely, and this openness is allowing them to build a deeper connection based on authenticity. Without vulnerability, we cannot have true belonging. After being rescued, they return to the house and Ben makes dinner for her. They look into each other's eyes and the attraction is undeniable. He gets closer to her and in a moment of connection, she kisses him. They get carried away by the moment, surrender to desire, and fall asleep next to each other. However, when he hears the others arriving, Ben decides to take his things and head to his room. This time, it is he who is left first. B watches him go and feels doubly betrayed, ashamed, and considers herself a fool for believing him again. It is the wedding day. Ben admits he is more confused than ever. He has always thought about getting back with Margaret, but there is something about B that he loves. Meanwhile, B accompanies Margaret to pick up the cake. Margaret confesses she is interested in rekindling things with Ben and asks for her permission. B is surprised, but assures Margaret she has nothing to worry about, that her thing with Ben is just something casual. When they return to the house, B's parents confront and interrogate her about why she decided to quit law school. She can't believe it. Ben told them. He assures her it wasn't his intention, but she feels deeply betrayed. She decides to announce in front of everyone, "We need to clarify that Ben and I have never been a couple. We have been pretending this whole time. I could never be with someone like him," and walks away. At the wedding, B and Ben decide not to speak. Margaret invites Ben to dance, and B decides it's better to leave. However, when Margaret tries to kiss Ben, he rejects her, knowing clearly that he wants someone else. Ben tries to look for B, but they inform him she has already left. However, Ben thinks he knows where she is. At the Sydney Opera House, Ben runs to catch up with her and finds her where he imagined. She sees him arrive and can't believe it, smiling from ear to ear. He apologizes from the bottom of his heart and acknowledges the terrible way he has handled things. He confesses that the only reason he has put up so many barriers is because he loves her, and he is truly terrified of the possibility of losing her. He tells her that if she doesn't love him back, he would be devastated, but he is willing to take that risk. B smiles and kisses him. She loves him too. People who like each other can end up wasting the connections life offers them for fear of being hurt again. But if we don't dare to be vulnerable, open our hearts, and take the risk of experiencing pain, we will never be able to find true belonging, love, and deep connections. We have to lower our barriers to allow love to enter again. Allowing ourselves to be vulnerable is not a sign of weakness, but of courage.